And so let me start off with a little riddle for you. I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I will ask you a question. Okay? So this is the story of somebody called John Smith. And so John Smith was asleep one night. It was a summer evening, and so the window had been left open in John's room. But during the night, a thief came from the outside, climbed into John's room, and began to steal some things from the room, from John's room. The thief put them all in a large black bag, escaped through the window, and ran away. Now, whilst the thief was stealing all of these things, John actually woke up and was watching what was happening, but he did nothing. Why? The question is, why? Sorry, if you could just raise your hand so I know who's speaking. Things were not belonging to him, so he said, okay, you have them. Huh? Well, maybe. Something else? Yes? The thief could harm him. Okay, possible. He might be afraid, might be scared. Alright, okay. Over here. He was not attached to those things, so he was the spiritual guy, like, alright, so, okay, could be. Alright, over here. He might have thought he was dreaming. That's an interesting answer. Interesting answer. But still not quite the right answer. Well, he came through the window. He came in through the window, and he escaped through the window as well. Yes, sir? He couldn't see because it was dark. There's items on a black bag, so he couldn't see. Alright, that's an interesting one. Sorry? Was he at home? Yeah, John was in the room. Yeah. He was sleeping, but he woke up when the thief came in. So he was actually watching. Now the reason you can't get the correct answer is because you have made up a piece of information which I did not give you. What have you assumed by yourself which I didn't tell you? That's actually a good answer. Was he blind, he says. That's a good answer. It's not quite the right one. It was a movie. Well, all right. Okay. Sorry. The thief escaped. I can't hear you. Escaped. Escaped, yeah. Okay, madam here, yeah. He is the thief. It's getting very complicated now. Yeah, he stole some stuff, yeah. Sorry? John's health was okay, yeah, but these are good questions. Okay, the answer is because John Smith is a baby. See, when I said John Smith, you assumed immediately a grown-up person. So all the time I was telling you the story, you actually were listening to your own story in your own mind. You know? This is of course an example, but this is what happens every day between people. You know, we have conversations, you speak a few words, and I assume I know what you're talking about, and the rest of the time you're talking to me, I'm listening to my own story, and I'm busy preparing my response to you. So actually I'm not listening to you, I'm listening to me creating my response to you. And this is how people misunderstand each other so easily in the world today. Miscommunication leads to misunderstanding, and misunderstanding leads to confusion, conflict, chaos, and all the rest of it. And of course we see this in people's homes, we see this in offices, we see this in the highest levels of leadership in the world. The more silent we make our mind, the more quiet my mind is, the more I can actually understand another person. There are always two conversations going on between people. One is the verbal conversation, the other is the emotional conversation. So verbally we listen with our ears to what you are saying, but for the emotions we're listening with our feelings and with our eyes, that is this person respecting me? Are my opinions being honored? What does he or she really think of what I'm saying? We listen more to the emotional conversation rather than the verbal conversation. And if our own minds become quieter, more silent, not only can I listen better to you, both in terms of your words and your emotions, but also I am better able to choose the accurate words to convey what I wish to say to another person. I think the whole of life has an upgrade the more quiet my mind becomes. You know? Generally we tend to think in order to get things done, you need to be fast, you should be dynamic, you know, make it happen. But there's a lovely saying that in the world, if a person is not doing much, you may say to him, don't just sit there, but do something. But I believe the opposite is more true. Don't just do something. First, please sit there. Means first sit, make your mind quiet, be at peace, and then your doing will be effective, your doing will be meaningful. This reminds me of difference between two words we often hear about in the workplace, and I'm sure you've come across this definition. Yeah, what's the difference between these two?
Effective is more related to the result, efficient is more to process.
Alright, okay, alright. Capability. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Anything else? Mm-hmm. This one. And here? Alright. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. This one is to the person that this. Okay. Okay. And this one to the work. All right. Some interesting definitions there. Some new ones for me as well. Okay. Last one here. All right. Okay. Some rich definitions there. Here's one simple one that I like very much. The deficient is about it's about doing things right. Simply put. So, for example, let's say you see there are 10 things to be done, and you do those 10 things within, let's say, 2 hours. So you would say this person is efficient, has completed these 10 things in these 2 hours. But I would say effective is about doing the right things. Which means out of those 10 things, maybe only 6 need to be done. And the other 2 are maybe can be done 2 weeks later, and the other 2 are actually unnecessary. So efficient is we may run around and complete everything on time and tick all the boxes. But I think effective, which I like more, is where your mind is quiet and you can see what are the priorities here. What really needs to be done? You're able to know this much attention and energy is needed to do this, that much there, and this one maybe somebody else can do, or this one we can collaborate with X, Y, Z. So here I think is the result of a steady and calm mind. You're able to look into the future and make a decision based upon understanding perspective. I think this is more for people in leadership positions, people who have long-term vision, and people who are able to have a balanced view of how to actually manage time, personal energy, and resources. And I've found with some yogis I know, extremely effective people, they get a lot done because they know which words to use in communication and relationship. They know how to make people feel valued. They know how to have quality interactions with others so people get motivated. Now, I'm only able to offer the best of me to others if I have a good relationship with myself. If I'm at peace with myself, then I can offer the best of me to you. But if I'm in some kind of turmoil with myself, if I'm not at peace with myself, I'm busy dealing with my own emotions, then I'm not available to actually help you, inform you, guide you, or encourage you, if that's my role or my position. And so one of the things we're going to look at now, which somebody mentioned yesterday as an expectation of this retreat, is learning to deal with stress. Who has some stress in their lives? Anyone here? No stress, sir? No stress here? Must be some. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask you is maybe just to write down, or if you don't have paper, to think about what for you are regular causes of stress. Okay, just take a minute or two to write down regular causes of stress for you. Okay. Okay, I know not everybody could hear what you were saying. One of the things you mentioned was competition, and a friend of mine was telling me that one of the experiences of people in IT in India is the need to prove yourself to be better than others, and the competition which this generates amongst people, which then leads to some stress. Would you agree with that? Is that an issue here? Yeah, okay. All right, we'll look at that. Maybe just one more here, yeah? Yeah, I mentioned traffic and other factors out of your control. That's a reality of big city life, that's true. Yes, okay, last one. Peer pressure and corporate. I still can't get politics, yeah. Right. There are, of course, I'm just going to move on now, many kinds of stress. One of the things you mentioned is workload stress, and perhaps having a lot to do in a short space of time, meeting deadlines. There can be travel stress, there can be finance related stress, there can be the stress of, looking after a sick or elderly relative. There is something called future stress, uncertainty about the future, and we know that we live in uncertain times today. But amidst all of these, I found the main stress area in people's lives is relationship stress, dealing with other human beings. So whether that's somebody at work, or maybe somebody at home, even somebody in the social circle, but handling different personalities seems to be a cause of high stress in people's lives. So we'll look at how to handle these. But a follow-up question, that when you are feeling stressed, what do you do to try to get relief from your stress? How do you try and deal with your stress? So that's the second question. Yeah? Okay, so you physically try and remove yourself from the situation. Okay, so some people may do that. And maybe let's try and hear some voices we haven't heard yet, if we can. Yes, madam? Okay, so deep breathing, pranayama, that helps for sure. All right, somebody else? Okay, all right. Accept the situation. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Somebody else? Sorry, sir. Take things easy. All right. This can help, to speak and to share, discuss with somebody close to you, or some people use music. Music is a very powerful thing, of course, both in relaxing you and agitating you as well. The power of music. So calm, relaxing music can help. Some people use nature. They go for a walk in nature. That's very healing and helps you to calm down. Some people take a shower or a bath with essential oils. That may be good for you. Some go to the fridge. Stress eating, right? Or they call as comfort food. And it's interesting how a lot of food advertising is about emotions rather than feeling full, right? Let's look at the images we see of food advertising. A happy couple, a happy family, a happy individual, because he or she is eating this particular brand of, yogurt or whatever it might be. Of course, some people may go for retail therapy, go shopping and spend money. So definitely we try to get escape from stress in some way. We cannot live in constant stress. If a person were in constant stress, they would feel life is not worth living. So we look for an escape. Now there are, of course, short-term methods to deal with stress, but there's also a long-term method. There are 4 main areas that we look at when it comes to dealing with stress, and let's say 4 manifestations of stress. One, of course, is on the physical level, and this manifests as illness, disease, and there are so many studies showing the connection between state of mind and state of body. Even illnesses such as cancer, some research shows that this is connected to repressed anger. Skin rashes have been connected to incessant worry, and so on. So there's that feeling worn down, feeling tired, digestive issues, some connection with stress perhaps. Stress can exist on the mental level, and this is where you have confused thinking. You just lose perspective of things, you misunderstand things, you take some things too seriously, and other things which really are important, you tend to not pay attention to them, and you find it difficult to make decisions because of a loss of perspective. So that's stress on the mental level. Stress can be also in the emotional level. And this is where you may find yourself stuck in a heavy mood which you just cannot shift. Drowning in a particular emotion, and it just feels like there's a dark cloud following you around wherever you go, and a kind of heaviness. The smile disappears from the face, and you just feel like life is no fun anymore. So stress manifesting on the emotional level as heavy moods. And then stress could also be on the spiritual level, sometimes called as an esoteric stress, where you just feel a loss of motivation for life. You feel a sense of meaninglessness. And you wonder, why am I doing this? Why do I even bother? What's the point? And just like the wind has gone out of your sails, and you just can't see a reason for battling every day, for example with the traffic or maybe somebody at work. It just seems as though there's no point in doing things, and you're looking for some kind of reason to get out of bed. You need a push to get out of bed and live your life. So these forms of stress come in different ways. But the question still arises that how do we define stress? What is stress? Can you come up with a one-sentence definition? So I'm going to ask you, maybe with a partner, somebody near you, just for 2 minutes, have a little discussion and come up with a definition of what is stress. Okay? Just with somebody near you for 2 minutes. Okay, if I can ask you to finish off there. Definitions of stress, and maybe we can just hear 2 or 3. Again, if there are voices we haven't heard yet. Madam, you were saying something. Could you say it again? Incapability to do the things properly. All right. Okay. Yes, sir.
Stress is an emotion which lowers our energy.
Which?
Lowers our energy.
An emotion which lowers our energy. All right. Okay. So we'll come here and then we go there. Yes, sir. As expected, you are not up to the mark. Huh? In the other person's eyes. Okay. All right. Okay. We come here. We lack ease in doing things. Okay, all right. Last one here. Okay, that's good. In fact, we have a similar formula we'll look at, connected to the physics one that you mentioned. All right, really last one. A state of tension leading to unhappiness. Okay, these are good, interesting definitions. There isn't one solid definition kind of in stone, but here is one useful one I heard which seems to be quite practical for me. And that is, stress is it's a kind of pain. Now, stress is an umbrella term, and under this umbrella I would put all these kinds of emotional pains, such as anger, fears, resentment, guilt, jealousies, etc. I call this as different forms of emotional pain. Now, let's just look at pain for a moment. What do you think about pain? Is pain good or is pain bad? You like pain? No. Well, it has a purpose, right? It's not so pleasant, but there is a purpose. So, for example, let's say if you were to sit like this on your chair for 15 minutes, you may have some pain in your back. Okay? Now that pain is good, because that pain is telling you, respect your posture, sit properly. You know? If you did not have that, yeah, now people do it. When I say it, everybody starts moving. But if you didn't have that pain, then you would continue to sit in this position, and maybe you would damage your backbone, you damage your vertebra. So pain is a signal, pain is a messenger that is telling you, make a change. Pain is a messenger telling you, you need to learn something, you need to do something differently. Let's say if as I'm walking across the floor, there happens to be a nail stuck out of the carpet. I don't see it. I step on the nail and my foot begins to bleed. I will experience some pain. That pain is good. That pain is telling me, look what's happening to your foot. Take care of your foot. Do something. If there were no pain, I may continue to bleed for a long time until I notice all this sea of red on the carpet. So whenever there is pain, it's a messenger, it's a signal telling me I need to make a change somewhere. The same thing applies to emotional pain. When you're angry, when you're afraid, if you feel depressed, if you get upset, there is also a message behind this. If you listen to the messenger and you act on the message, you have made that pain useful. If you don't understand the message, if you ignore the message, the pain will continue to persist. So here's a formula which helps us to look at this in perspective and connect it to what you said earlier. So here is stress here. So stress, on the one hand, has a relationship with pressure. So a person may say, I have so many pressures in my life, therefore I have so much stress. What kind of pressure? I have work pressure. I have traffic pressure. I have financial pressure. I have family pressure. I have health pressure, XYZ. So more pressure equals more stress. Agreed? Yes, but there is something else also in the equation. And that is stress equals the pressure which is coming from the outside, but divided by the resilience I have on the inside. In other words, the resilience of my mind. How strong is my mind? Pressure from the outside, resilience from the inside. Now, here's a simple mathematical problem for you. If you want to reduce the stress in your life, what should you do? Well, you can do two things, right? You can try to reduce the pressure, and mostly this is only what people do. They try to change their pressure-related scenarios. So they say, for example, I have too much pressure at work, I must change maybe my job or my department. I must change that. Or there's too much pressure where I live, I must move to a quieter part of town. Or I have a lot of pressure in my marriage, I must change my husband or my wife. And all these things may work, but temporarily. That's called a temporary escape from pressure. Now, if you can make certain changes, good for you. If you can move to a quiet part of town, if you're able to find a less demanding job, good for you. But not everyone can do that. You may not be able to shift to another quieter village. You may have responsibilities, so this is not possible for everyone all the time. But mostly, we just try and change the scenarios. But there is something which is possible for everyone, and that is we can increase the resilience of the mind. And that's what we're all about. Our whole study is to make the mind more stable, more balanced, more powerful. Now, as I mentioned, there are some short-term ways to deal with stress, but there's also a long-term way. Short-term is relief from stress. For example, somebody mentioned physical exercises, relaxation, deep breathing. Yes, good. If that helps you, good, and do that. Then there are other things. For example, there is creative visualization, like what we did earlier today with the quiet room. That can help you to calm down. There is meditation. And then there is a third thing, which is really the long-term solution, which is a shift in your attitude and vision towards life. And these are the two things I'd like to focus on. These two things, which for us here is really the bread and butter of the spiritual journey, the inner journey. One is to increase your inner power. That happens through meditation, learning how to be more essenseful in my thoughts and in my words, not wasting my soul energy by thinking unnecessarily and speaking unnecessarily. A good yogi or a good meditator loves to be essenceful in words and thoughts. The energy you save by becoming more quiet in thoughts and words, that energy accumulates in the soul as the power of silence. And the accumulation of that power will help you when you face adversity, when you have to tolerate someone or something difficult, when you need the willpower to make something happen. So how does inner power increase? I would say essentially through making meditation into a habit, into a lifestyle. And second thing is an upgrade in my attitude and vision of life. And how do you do that? It's through having a, let's say, a broader understanding of the principles of life and interaction. Now, to clarify that, we're going to look at an example of how making a shift in your attitude just changes the way you relate to people and situations. Earlier we talked about the danger box, and we said there are things we are doing wrong which we don't realize we are doing wrong. And one of the things in the danger box is a mistake that we make which causes us to become stressed, especially in interactions and relationships. What am I doing wrong in some relationship with some individual which is causing me to experience stress? What is the main bad habit we tend to have when coming into relationship with other people? We've looked at it in one or two ways already, but let's look at it in a bit more detail. And the model I'd like to share now is something that we call as the Control Continuum. It's about what you can control and what you cannot control. So let's say over here are things you have no control over, and over here are things you have 100% control over, at least potentially. So from the things which cause you stress, what kind of things do you have no control over? Or very little control over? Anything from the outside. Alright. Yes, I missed. Someone said something? Other people's expectations. Alright. Traffic. Yeah. Weather. Alright. Yes. Okay. I couldn't hear you. Situation or condition. Okay. Any situation, condition, etc. And there could be a long list here of the things which we really have either no control over or very little control over. Now, what about the other end of the spectrum? What do you have 100% control over, at least potentially? Right. We know the answers, don't we? These are all the right answers. In other words, everything which is connected with myself. Okay? Which means, okay, so my vision, the way I see things, my approach, my responses, right? Even my thoughts, everything connected with me. So now the question arises, if I try to control the things which cannot be controlled, what would be the result? Stress. Exactly. This is where the stress experience is born. In my mind, I'm trying to control something which cannot be controlled, especially with people. Right? And if you look at the list of things which make you feel stressed, you'll find it's probably because you are trying to control these things. Now, when it comes to people, often we say there is somebody who just has the ability to push my buttons. And we call them as difficult people. Do you have at least one difficult person in your life? Yes? Someone who seems to be a world expert at pushing your buttons. It's as though this person has a PhD in irritating you. They have been strategically dropped in your life just to make your life difficult. Sorry? Yeah. It tends to be people who are close to us because they know your buttons. They think, okay, today I'm going to press. So what to do? How to stop someone from pushing your buttons? Well, yeah, that's part of the solution, I think. Usually what happens when somebody pushes your button is you look for theirs to push back. Right? So he or she pushes, I push back, and then it's this kind of tit-for-tat reaction goes on. What else to do? Oh, we could do it what I call as the British way. We could say, excuse me, could you please not push my buttons? But this may not have a long-lasting impact. But the only real solution is I learn how to deactivate my buttons. It's not about saying you should be more respectful towards me. You should talk to me better. Don't shout at me. No, it's not that. It's about me. I learn to deactivate my buttons. I learn how to not react. I learn how to increase my self-control, my composure, my mental and emotional stability. And what happens then is next time somebody pushes, there is no reaction. And what will that person do then? Yeah? Initially they'll push harder. Why doesn't this button work? Or they try all the button. It's like you go into a lift, you push the button, it doesn't work, and you think, what's wrong with this silly lift? And you press all of them, it doesn't work, then you come out and you take the stairs, you do something else. So too, this is the message that it gives. As you learn how to be more stable, unmoved, undisturbed, you are sending a non-verbal message to the other person. You can no longer upset me. You can no longer make me angry. Non-verbal. Don't say it to that person. Don't say, you can't make me angry. Or they'll come with all their ammunition next time. But they'll get the message that I can't upset you anymore. And this causes them to change their behavior towards you. This is one of the principles of the relationship, the spiritual principle of life, is never ask to be respected, but increase your self-respect. Increase your self-esteem. A person who has high self-respect will naturally command respect from others without asking. A person who has low self-respect will demand respect from others, and may get it, may not, and even if he or she gets it, it won't be genuine. The only way I can change the way people behave towards me is I improve my self-respect. I improve my relationship with my own self. Yeah, did you want to say something? Okay, she asks a good question. How do we know whether we have high self-respect or low? It's of course another whole weekend's retreat, this subject. It's a very deep subject. For me, I say it like this, that one of the habits that we need to break, which belongs to low self-respect, is the give and take of sorrow. No? High self-respect means I choose to maintain my peace of mind and my happiness no matter what. No? When we say self-respect, which self are we talking about? In our study here, the true self, the essential self, is I, the spiritual energy, I, the soul. And it's like making a pledge with myself. My peace of mind and my happiness is in my own hands. It's non-negotiable. So even if somebody insults you or criticizes you, you won't feel upset if your self-respect is high. So that's how I measure my self-respect, is do I own my peace and happiness? We're going to go a bit more into this tomorrow in the toolkit session, the spirituality in friendships and relationships. But this is the main thing. I really feel that the central issue in human life is a person's level of self-respect. That means a good relationship with myself, and that necessarily impacts all my relationships with everyone around me. Okay, so what to do here? Well, the work we need to do in order to deal with stress is to shift the desire for control from here to over here. And so what we're saying here is, I can't control people, I can't control expectations, I can't control situations, I can't control circumstances, but I can control my response to people, situations, circumstances. Making this shift from trying to control the outside to working on greater self-control, if you do this, it has a dramatic impact upon the stress you experience in life. If your mind is consumed with what you don't like about other people, you're generating negative emotions. Rather than that, be occupied with how you would like to respond to people and situations. You have a choice. Do I want to think about what I don't like about you? Or do I want to think how I should respond? When you make that shift, notice how fairly quickly you begin to feel much better in your relationships. And people who are on the inner journey or in a spiritual path, there are certain words which leave their vocabulary. Words such as blaming, words such as criticizing, words such as I am a victim. Because such people, they acknowledge there are people, there are situations which may not be the way I would choose, but how can I use this to make me grow? What can I learn from this? And this is what I mean by a shift in my attitude to and vision towards life. Now here is a little formula which just helps us to understand all of this, and something which maybe you can remind yourself of when you find yourself getting a bit stressed, a bit irritated, a bit annoyed, maybe with somebody at work or at home. So there we are. That's the formula to end all your stress. Okay, clear? No? All right, what does it stand for? So O here stands for the outcome of something. So there are two kinds of outcomes in our lives. There are outcomes or scenarios that we are happy with, and so no problem there. We're not dealing with those. But then there are outcomes or scenarios we are not happy with. It could be some situation at work. It could be the condition of a particular relationship in your life. Something which doesn't seem to be right. Something bothering you. So the question is, in order to change those outcomes which you're not happy with, are you trying to change or control E, or are you trying to change or control R? Yeah, let's see what it stands for. E here, E stands for the event. Event means the thing outside of me. The way he speaks to me, the way she handles the situation, the circumstance over there. If I'm trying to control E, then I'm saying, hello, stress. Right? Welcome, stress. Right? If instead of trying to control E, I shift my desire for control, yeah, that's right, to R, which is to my response. Then you have just as much influence over the outcome. Both E and R are connected to the outcome. Shift from trying to control event to controlling my response. And notice how the outcome begins to change. Say again, sorry? Yeah. Should be minus. Can you say a bit more about that? Yeah. How do you mean? Yeah. I see. Okay, that's another idea. It's, let me think about that. It's a new one for me. He's saying E minus R equals O. It's an interesting idea. All right, some new ideas for me here. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, he's saying there are some events you have to respond to, but it's true that how you want to respond, when you want to respond, how much you want to respond, that should be in your own hands. You know? But the main message here is this, letting go of the controlling tendency, especially in the relationships. You know? And if you look at anger, for example, we may do that tomorrow if there's time. One of the reasons for becoming angry, or the tendency behind anger, is the desire to control. Okay? It's a big issue because we live in a world where we operate in a culture of blame and a culture of control. Right? You just have to look at the newspapers. Everybody's blaming somebody else for this or that or the other. And so we grow up with this tendency of blaming each other. And of course, we looked at the cheek and chin thing earlier, and we saw how just by observing others, we develop certain tendencies. But I believe when we play the blame game, there are no winners. Everybody is a loser. My life begins to improve when I begin to take responsibility for my thoughts, my feelings, my approach, and I begin to grow through life. As it is often said, most people go through life, few people grow through life. Yeah? The choice is entirely mine. And so this tells us a bit about the whole stress issue. One more thing with regard to control. Think of the relationship between control and influence. The more you try to control someone, the less you will influence that person. The less you try and control someone, the more you will influence that person. Because controlling is an aggressive energy. If I try and control you, naturally you will put up your defenses. Even physically, if somebody tries to hit you, what will you instinctively do? Will you just take it? No, you try and protect yourself. The same way, when the controlling energy is coming from me, emotionally, a person will put up their defenses. But if I drop that controlling attitude, then people will feel safe with you, and they actually even offer to help you. They become more open. Can I do something for you? Can I help you in some way? Control and influence. Very interesting, the dynamic between the two. And I believe that the greatest people amongst us, the most spiritual people, naturally carry an influence with them. There's no controlling energy there. And a true leader is one who influences others, not controls others. We were talking a bit earlier with some friends about, true leadership. And we were saying, by the way, how many here are leaders at work? Any leaders or managers? Oh, a few of you. We were mentioning earlier that there's two types of leaders we discuss in our leadership program. One we call as the warrior leader. The person who stands at the front and tells you what to do, and if you don't do it, hits you until you do it. The warrior leader leads through fear and intimidation, but has to protect himself or herself because of the fear of reprisals from others. Warrior leader has reached the top by hurting other people. So other people harbor feelings of revenge or resentment in their hearts. But the other type of leader we call as the servant leader. The person who actually has the interest to serve, to help, to uplift. And such a person has achieved the greatest of all achievements, which is to win the hearts and minds of others. Now, to win the hearts and minds of others doesn't happen through belief or through rhetoric, it's through behavior. So if I'm learning to manage my own emotions, then I can behave with you in such a way that actually helps you, uplifts you. And I think that's real power. Real power very naturally influences others, helps them to grow as well. Now, I've taken far too long on this particular subject. We have just one more thing to look at before we head to the next part. But as we've had quite a bit of information, let's just have a reflective moment, a reflective pause before we go further. So just in silence, no need for music here. Just be quiet for a moment. Just be with yourself. Just come to that silent space which exists within your quiet room. I just become aware of this space of stillness, this space of silence within the quiet room and the center of my forehead. I realize my peace of mind is my personal property. My peace of mind is my eternal treasure. My peace of mind is always in my own hands. Just be with the thought, I am peace, I am a peaceful soul. Just dwell on this thought for a moment. Okay, thank you. So we move on to one more thing before we come to our little break. And that's the whole idea of empowerment of the self. There are two main steps in this practice which we call as Raja Yoga meditation. And one of them is knowing the self, connecting with my inner self. That we describe as the journey inward. But then there is another part to it, which we call as the journey upward. And that's connecting with the energy source, the supreme energy, the big guy, whatever word we use, and learning how to download that energy into my own self. So I'd like to share a model which just helps to illustrate this principle. And this is known as the model or the notion of the 3 points. Let's say this here, this represents you. Okay, and this over here represents life. And so the system that we are born into in this world, which we'll end up following, is if you want something from life, you need to go out there and get it. And be quick. Get there first. because other people may want the same thing as you. So move it. Get there first. Push others out of the way. Use your elbows if you need to. And that's what we call as the rat race. Right? We enter into the rat race of life. The only problem with the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. You haven't become anything else. And so this necessarily will involve some competition. There'll be stress. There'll be losers. There'll be winners, etc. And we may describe this as the life which is connected to the energy or the principle of force. That's where you try to force things to happen according to your wish, according to your desire, or using this energy of trying to force things to happen. And pretty much everybody gets caught up in this dynamic of life, trying to force things to happen. But when we become aware of the non-physical energies, the soul, the Supreme Soul, we realize there's more to life than simply that. And this third dot here represents that higher energy. So we may use any words, but I'm going to just use the word the supreme energy, the supreme being, the Supreme Soul. And as we begin to make a personal and a private mind connection with that higher energy, that supreme energy, then things begin to happen in your life. Making this mental connection with the Supreme is going to have an impact on the life around you. Higher energy influences the lower energy. What will begin to happen is this influence will take place, and life will begin to bring to you what you really need. It's a very different way of living. One principle is fight, struggle, compare, compete, stress, all the games that go on. And the other principle is you actually attract to you what you really need. It's a very different way of living. And when you do that, when you make this connection, then you're not living with the principle of force, but you are employing the principle of power. You allow it to happen. Now the important thing is, of course, this connection. This connection between you and the Supreme has to be honest, has to be real, has to be experiential. And in a way, that's the main thing on the inner journey or the spiritual journey, is my connection with the Supreme Energy. This also is the true meaning or the deepest meaning of the word yoga. As you know, yoga comes from the word yujya. Yujya means to connect, union or link. There are many kinds of yogas, but the highest of all the yogas is the Soul and Supreme Soul Yoga. The principle is this, that whatever you think about, you are having a yoga with that thing or that person. And whatever you are having a yoga with, you will become similar to that. This is the energy of thoughts, the energy of your consciousness. For example, think of a very old couple who have been married for many, many years. They begin to look like each other. Have you noticed that? Yeah. And have you noticed how some people look like their dogs? You seen that too? Does anybody have a dog or a cat? Can we see the photographs, please? Just kidding, huh? But whatever you think about, you will become similar to that. So when it comes to the old couple, for example, because in the mind is the image of the face of the other, whatever is in your mind is going to affect your features. That's the principle of yoga. So here we are saying, if I have a yoga with the Supreme Energy, which we call as the ocean of peace, the ocean of love, the ocean of kindness, the benevolent one, the true friend of the soul, the mother, the father, all these divine attributes, then these will also begin to flow into me. The Supreme is the most powerful energy, the almighty authority, Sarv Shaktivan, as we say. If I'm having a yoga with that being, I also will become powerful. I won't become the Supreme, but I'll become more powerful than I am. The best in me will come up to the surface if I'm having this yoga connection. And that's why it is often said for those who are meditators, that if you are an honest meditator, you don't need to ask for anything. What you need will come to you. And the connection between the words yoga and sehayog. Life will cooperate with you if you are doing this highest of all actions, which is to make this connection with the Supreme Being. And certainly, amongst meditators, amongst yogis, we often say that if you're going through adversity in your life, if you have difficulties, if you have problems, could be money issue, relationship issue, health issue, yes, you have to practically deal with that, but additionally, increase your meditation as well. Pay more attention to your meditation, in addition to taking practical steps. The energy that you get through this meditation or yoga link is going to influence life around you, and you will see how life will begin to bring you dividends. Help will come to you from unexpected directions. And this, I feel, it's a right for every single human being, every single soul, is to experience this help, companionship, support, protection, guidance of the Supreme Energy. If we have that in our lives, we feel secure, we feel looked after. But it's a question of building this relationship, I would say, once again. I think we all have that experience somewhere deep within our psyche, but we've forgotten it. And it's time to make that connection once again. So first the inner journey, and then the upward journey. And I believe that's the game changer for our lives. Now, Geeta Ben is here, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do after the break, which is the Labyrinth Experience. And this part is connected to that, and that's why I wanted to introduce it to you. So may I invite you up?
Thank you so much again, Brother Yogesh. So the evening we are using one of the meditation tool, usually, that's called Labyrinth Walk. Yeah. So what exactly is labyrinth? It's a Greek word again. A labyrinth is an ancient symbol that relates to oldness. It combines the imagery of the circle and the spiral into a meandering but purposeful path. And it represents a journey to our own center and back again out into this world. So we have created similar to that one of the path downstairs, so on the ground floor. So there's one entry and one exit. Okay, so one guide will be there. The first person will be standing, and that person will be guiding you to through the path. So all we have to do is, we have to start with one single line, no two people on the same, one single series line, and we'll start from the stairs, and the path begins from the stairs. And from there on, we have 3 stages. Okay, so we have at every stage there is a place where we have to sit upon and churn upon, and the guided commentary and the meditation will be conducted by Brother Yogesh. He'll give some points to reflect upon. Then you have to carry only a notebook and pen, nothing else. Don't carry your folder, your bag and bags, everything. You can keep it here, it's safe. You can carry only your folder, your notebook and pen. And also it's good that if you can walk in a barefoot. If you feel it is something tough or you have any medical issues, you can wear, but suggested is you can have a barefoot walk. So after 3 stages, the 3rd stage, and all these 3 stages we have one theme, the theme of this event, right? So discover, uncover and then recover. So the last stage, recover, we will enter into a meditation room. Again, there the instruction will be given by Brother Yogesh, and once you enter to the meditation room, sit there for a minute maybe, okay, and then come out of that room. You will have 2 sisters, senior sisters, giving you a blessing and a rose, okay, and from there you can go on to the dinner. Okay, so this entire evening is completely solely dedicated for your own self. Just forget everything and enjoy your journey in this labyrinth walk. Okay. Now 5:45 to 6:15, our kitchen sevadaris have something special for you. So please have that snacks. Come back here, and we'll start from here the journey of labyrinth walk. Okay. Thank you so much.